What happens during the middle part of the California legislative session? Here we are concerned primarily with the adoption of the state budget and then consideration of bills in their second house. As I've mentioned, there are essentially three major parts to the California legislative session: the House of Origin, the second house and budget, and then the final month and gubernatorial action. Obviously, there are key subparts in these three major parts, but I think you can view the legislative session in this way. So again, this middle part is on the second house, bills and measures getting through there, and the adoption of the budget. So let's start with an overview of what happens in the middle section. Immediately after the House of Origin deadline, the budget deliberations for the state are in full swing. And then measures have to quickly go through the policy committees of the second house. The first half of June is spent mainly on the adoption of the state budget and the trailer bills that go along with the budget. For the month that follows then in July, the policy committees in both houses work diligently to consider and vote on the hundreds of bills that made their way over from the House of Origin or the other house. And that's followed generally by a month-long summer recess before the final month of the legislative session and the governor's 30 days to act on bills. In taking a look at the legislative calendar for the middle part of the legislative session in California, we generally have that June 15th budget deadline due by midnight. June 30th is generally the last day for a legislative measure to qualify to be placed on the November general election ballot. Then we hit the deadline for the last day for policy committees to meet and report the bills. And then we have the commencement of the summer recess, which occurs upon adjournment of that specified day, either the month of July in the second 2-year session, the second year, the even numbered year of the 2-year session, or from middle of July to middle of August for the summer recess of the first year or the odd numbered year. What are some of the constitutional and statutory requirements that go along with the middle part of the California legislative session? Well, all meetings of a house of the legislature or a committee must be open and public, and all persons must be admitted to or must be permitted to attend the meeting. Any meeting that's required to be open and public must be held only after the required notice to the public in the joint rules, which is generally a 4-day file notice. In terms of the budget, note that the governor of California has a line item veto authority, meaning the governor may reduce or eliminate one or more items of appropriation while approving the other portions of the bill. And in these cases, the governor has to include a statement of why the items were reduced or eliminated. An appropriation item that was either reduced or eliminated by the governor with the line item veto authority can be considered separately and of course can be passed over the governor's objections by a 2/3 vote of both the Assembly and the Senate. Now, until the budget bill is enacted by June 15th each year, the legislature is prohibited from sending any bills to the governor that propose to appropriate funds during the upcoming fiscal year, unless this is deemed to be an emergency bill that's recommended by the governor. And then finally, note that appropriations bills generally require a 2/3 vote for those whose source of funding is the general fund. Except the main budget bill, the budget bill junior, and trailer bills that contain an appropriation, and appropriations made for the public schools all require a majority vote, not 2/3. The legislature can control the submission, approval, and enforcement of budgets and the filing of claims for all the state agencies. And legislators cannot be paid any salary or expenses if the legislature has not passed the budget bill by midnight on June the 15th. So that's a brief synopsis of what happens in the middle part of the California legislative session.